Well, hello model car fans. Welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Raul, and this week I'm going to feature a build here of a 66 Chevelle SS396. And this car for me is just one very good looking car. I just really like everything about the body of this car. It's a bit boxy, but the way it's done, I really like it. I've just always really enjoyed this car. But for 66, the SS was changing quite a bit in 64 and 65 in the Chevelles, and a lot of the early SS cars. The Super Sport package was really just bucket seats and a console and decorated extra trim. It really didn't have a whole lot to do with the engine. In 65, that started to change. The SS package was still just a trim package, but they did have a special Z16 that came out mid to late year when the 396 came out, but that was a very special SS that's not really quite the same as the 65 SS, so there's some trim that changed. But in 66, the SS package started to come with the 396 engine. So you ordered an SS, you got one of the 396s. Now there was a couple of different versions, and the top dog being the L78 solid lifter 375 horsepower 396. That was the bad boy. Even though they had some even more potent ones in the Corvette, they had the 396 and 65 that had 425 horsepower, and it was pretty much a 1 year only, and replaced by the 427 and 66. But in the Chevelle, the 427 wasn't available, other than some dealers swapping them out, or racers will swap them out later on as well. But not a whole lot of actual custom ones done. But this is the car that I had seen first, and I really didn't know what a Chevelle was at the time. Now, this was, for me, this was in high school, and I had met a good friend of mine, Matt. We had met in high school our sophomore year, and we had English together. And, I'm being a big car nut, and I had car magazines with me all the time, and he liked to look at them, and we got to talking, and come to find out he had a 66 Chevelle. And I didn't know what a Chevelle was. I was raised Ford. I was real big, and, of course, my dad had Thunderbirds. I knew what Thunderbirds were. I knew what a lot of the 50s Fords were. Mustangs, so I knew a lot of those. I didn't know a whole lot of Chevys. I knew Camaros, Corvettes, but I really didn't know what a Chevelle was. Kind of knew the Malibu name, but didn't really know Chevelle and Malibu or Chevelle. I knew there were some Super Sports, but didn't know much about these. And he had one, and he let me know it wasn't running, and decided, hey, let's go check it out. And I was interested in seeing what he had. And what he had was a 66 Chevelle two-door 300 Deluxe. Now that does not have this roof. It has a more sedan roof with the wraparound rear window that you would see on a four-door, but not on the two-doors. Two-doors, you usually see this one. But his was a two-door, but it had the post frame, and it had the wraparound rear window. Pretty rare, and they're pretty much base models with rubber floor mats. They didn't really have carpet. It was your entry-level Chevelle. That was the 300 and the 300 Deluxe. His was actually the Deluxe with a little bit more chrome, but not like the Super Sport here with all this extra chrome. But it also had the inline six. It was gold with gold interior and an inline six. I don't remember which one of the inline sixes it was, but I remember helping him go pick up another inline six, and we actually loaded in the back of what is now my wagon, but was my mom's wagon at the time. We put an inline six back there and dragged it to his house and offloaded it. So, my old station wagon has hauled actually a few motors in the back of it, even though it's a station wagon. But anyway, that's veering off a little too far. But I was introduced to his 66 Chevelle, which was, paint was shot, but no sheet metal damage, and it was a beautiful shaped car, just didn't run. Now, we had never got it running, and his dad had a couple of cars around the house, and that was one he could choose from. There was also a 65 Nova two-door that he had, same kind of thing. That one had no motor, and it was an inline six car, but it was another fairly complete car, missing some interior parts, but the body was pretty much all there. But he didn't ever get the Chevelle running. Ended up selling it to somebody else who got it running, and it got wrecked eventually. Unfortunately, he picked up a 69 Skylark, and that was his first running car, and we got to know that. But at the time, I was building models, and he was, come to find out, he had built a few. And Revell and AMT, they both issued 67 Chevelles, and that was the closest thing to a 66 Chevelle that was stock that we could find. And of course this was 89, 1990 when I was a sophomore in high school, and that's when we met. And the only 66 Chevelle out there was the monogram tilt front end one that was custom. There was not a whole lot of stock to it. I had built one of those, and I have pictures up. I'll throw the pictures up. I wish I never sold it. I sold this car on eBay. It was a fun build, but it was a tedious build, and definitely one of my first kit bashes, and a pro touring car before there was ever actually a pro touring car. What I did, and you can see in the picture, especially the chassis, I kit bashed it with a Corvette ZR1. I put the ZR1 suspension in it. I put the Corvette's engine in it. I cut the tilt front end apart and made separate fenders in the hood. I had a vacuum formed hood scoop that I used to give me kind of the L88 hood, or cowl induction hood. I molded that into it, and of course painted the thing black and had the Corvette ZR1 wheels on it. And I really liked that car, but you know, Lindberg came out with this one, and I had found out about it. So, you know, of course, I had to buy one. So I bought this one right here, and now I've actually got like another 2 or 3 of them in there because it's been reissued a number of times. And yeah, I got pictures of this too. Now this, I did a decent job building it the first time, and because I had a 66 Chevelle in my collection, I ended up selling that Pro Touring one, and I wish I didn't sell that one. There's actually a few models that I've sold that I wish I didn't sell, which pretty much all of them. And that's just the way I feel about it. But I wish I could have that one back or track it down. There's no way to find it, and you know, I sold it on eBay, but that was 20 years ago easily that when I sold it. But I built this one in red, and it was a fun build, but I remember one specific thing on this thing. And when you build this thing, see if I can get the hood off. When you build this thing, I build the motors, and I usually just do all of it, and I glue the fan assembly on and the alternator on and everything. This Lindberg kit, if you do that, put everything together on the motor, the directions tell you to put the fans, belts and alternator on much later after you assemble the body. You really need to follow those directions, because I found out gluing all the belts on and everything, it's really hard to put this alternator and engine in with the inner fenders, because the inner fenders you see go way under it. So you can definitely see they go way under it. You can't get the body on when you do that, and I had to learn that the hard way. So I had to break those off, break the glue, put the motor back in, and then put it all back together. And then I didn't remember all of that when I stripped this thing and changed it from red to blue, as I wanted to redo this one, and I didn't want 2 red Chevelles in my collection for whatever reason. I was building the 65. I eventually built the 65 in red, and I think it was like 2004 or 2005 is when I built that one, and I tore this one apart and redid it in blue. So this one's been blue for quite a number of years now, but it didn't stay red for very long. But I had to tear this one apart and redo it. So I did do that, and I enjoyed it. And you know, I won't be doing that again, as I got a few more of these to build. But it's just a very good looking kit, and it comes out really, really nicely, and I'm glad it's been reissued a few times. But as most of them are, it's got the manual tranny, all the suspension. So it's a very well detailed kit. So if you haven't built one of these, I highly recommend it. But definitely follow the instructions, because the alternator thing really caught me on it. And of course I did the whole interior in black, which it's really hard to get in there and see it. Mirror hangs down really far, but I don't think I glued that in the right spot. I think it needs to be farther up into the headliner, because it really shouldn't be that far down. But that's where I glued it. And it's a little finicky to brush paint all of the details on the grill there. But of course easily done. But this thing just comes out awesome when it's built and done there. So great kit, really enjoyed it. And you know, of course I've got others to do as well. And I did pick up MCW. I don't know if they still offer it anymore, but I did pick up their resin body to do a 300 sedan, 2-door sedan. They do make that body, and I don't know if it's currently available, but I picked that one up. So, you know, I do plan to build one of those. And ironically, I did pick another one of these up. I don't even know if I got 3. I at least got 2. But the other one was I wanted to cut the roof off and make a convertible out of it. And I haven't done that either. But the convertible boot is in the AMT 67 GTO. You can get the boot from one of those, if I remember right, or not the 67 GTO, the 65 GTO. The convertible boot from that one, and it works out pretty nice on this. But I think there might be other convertible boot options as well. But if anybody's built one as a convertible, let me know how it came out. I'd love to hear about it. That's enough on this one. Is one of my favorites. Of course, it's hard to pick a favorite when it comes to, you know, model kits, and I enjoy all of them so much. But this is one of the ones that really enjoyed it, even though I've built it a couple of times. Highly recommend it. Just a really good kit, and I'm glad it's been reissued a few times. So thanks for tuning in, subscribing, and all of your comments. I really appreciate it. And you guys, you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next Saturday.